deep dive we have here. Camila started the recording already. We would like to record this session as well as we did with the previous sessions in order to make them available for other colleagues who are not able to join us today. Just a reminder is that this session is in English and I will present in this session. We have, after 1 hour and a half, 1 hour and a half from now, we have another session that Camila will present in French. So if you prefer to attend the French session, please feel free. If you would like to attend both as well, I mean, it's up to you, but just be reminded that we have another session in French that will start at 3:30 Geneva time. So with that note, I think we can start this session. Welcome everybody. This session will be dedicated to the main part of the SSC here. I mean that we are all concerned about the calculating severity and PIN. This is our technical deep dive number 1. As you can see, we still have one more session on the 7th of September, which is a day of a UN holiday in Geneva. So if colleagues from Geneva don't mind to join us on that day, we can keep it on the planned day. Otherwise, I mean, or I don't know if it is the same for other colleagues in the field, that it's a UN holiday or not. But if there's some concerns about this date, the 7th of September, please let us know, and so we can change ahead of time. Again, today is the main part on the PIN and severity calculation. We will explore two things, how we calculate the PIN and severity in situations where we have MSNA data, or not MSNA, let me rephrase this, household level data, and in situations where we have area level data. We will see how it will work, how the tools that we have provided function well in both situations, and the outputs moving forward. Next slide, please, Camila. Another look at the framework, not to revise the framework, but just to tell where we are working today. We are working at the 3 pillars. In the last meeting in the refresher, in the session of the 9th of August, we looked a little bit on the assessment and the analysis grid. Today, we will move to the next step where we talk about how we format our data set and calculate the severity and the PIN. Please, next. So, calculating severity and PIN will go in, like several steps. Some of them are automated and some of them are not. As you see in the column, automated in the calculation tool or not. And then you have the last column, it differs between situations where you have household level data or area level data. So first step is to designing your questionnaire, filling in the analysis grid as a decision tree. It is automated in the tool? No. This is the exercise that you have to do at the moment when you have the assessment. This should have been done before. Maybe in some situations where we didn't have clear decisions on having MSNA or not, the process was delayed, etc. Maybe it's still in progress. So this has to be done as a first step. Difference between household level data and area level data? Yes, for sure, because the nature of the data that we have, the data sets that we have for both will be different. In household level data, you might have detailed questions. In area level data, it might be percentages that answer some questions, and the level of details might be different here. So you need to redesign your analysis grid as such, according to the available data. We will see how it will work on that. Then formatting the data set as well. It's not automated. You need to get your data set either from the MSNA, for example, if it's household level, or you build it up from different data sources if it is area level data, and you will try to format that data set in a way that can be used for the automatic calculation. And we will see how we'll format the data set for both situations. Calculate severity score for each pillar. Here, based on the analysis grid, you need to build your formulas that will calculate the severity score under each pillar, under the criteria of each pillar. And this is not automated because it depends completely on the data set, on the structure of the data set that you have. So this cannot be automated. If it differs between household level data and area level data, the answer is yes and no. Yes, because like different formulas that are there, and you need to see how you will transform the percentages from area level to household level, and no, in the sense of that you need to build the formulas to inside the data set to create the severity score under each criteria for each indicator. So we will move on that as well. Calculating the severity score for each household according to the decision tree. This is automated, and it is the same between household level data and area level data. Here, we're saying for each household, maybe it's a bit confusing because in area level data, it's not household, but we will see how we transform the area level data to semi-household level data, and then the rest will be the same. From here on, you will see all the steps. They are similar between household level data and area level data. They are all automated. So once you have that preparation work on formatting the data set and your analysis grid, everything will be automated. Calculating percentage of household under each severity level for each admin unit and population group. Yes, it's automated. No difference between both. Then determining the severity for each area and the pin figure using the 20% rule, automated, and there's no difference. Calculating pin as well by timing the proportion of household living under severity 3, 4, or 5, automated, and there's no difference between both situations. Adjustment as needed using the evidence. This is not automated. This is the workshops that you will do with your partners and your teams to make sure that the calculated results represent the reality and there are no need for adjustment. Next slide, please. So, formatting the data set when you have household level data, you will receive the MSNA data set. You will put it in the calculation tool. We have now one tab called household level data set in the tool. You will align the data according to each population group, according to each analysis unit. So if you are talking about admin 2 or admin 3 as geographical unit for analysis, and you have maybe host community and IDPs, maybe you have more population groups, it depends. All of these details should be included in the data set that you have received. And it should be aligned to the structure of the geographical representation of the country and the population groups. Here, the advice that we have here is to format the data set in a way that it mostly matches the analysis grid, so it will facilitate your the automatic calculation, and it will facilitate your the build of the formulas to calculate the severity score under each indicator. So this is important to make sure that you have the sense between the analysis grid and the data set. They are kind of matching each other somehow. The output here is the data set formatted and ready to be used for the analysis. We will see it in the Excel quickly, but maybe in the next slide we'll see how it could look like. Next slide, please. Here, it's a tricky point. I mean, before I move here, do we have any doubts or any issues on the household level data sets? Is it clear? Do you have any questions on that? I don't see any hands up. No one is unmuted, and I don't see anything in chat. Okay. So let's move now to area level data. So the objective is to translate the area level data set into one household level data set. Usually in area level data set, we will have percentage of household and relative number, of households, etc. Like how to say, if we say that 20% of population of the IDPs in this area live in tents, right? So, and maybe 50% live in unfinished building and 30% live in solid building, apartments, etc. How we translate these three things into from percentage into households? We have three, 20%, 50%, and 30%, right? So we need to translate this into three things. For 20%, I can create two lines with the same answers that they live in tents. For the 50%, I can create 5 rows with answers that they live in unfinished building, and 3 rows for those who live in finished building or apartments. So this is the thinking that we would like to use while we are transforming the from household or from percentage into numbers of households. So each row will correspond to one household. Each column will correspond into one criteria of the sub-indicators. If you remember in the analysis grid, we have for each sub-indicator, we have different criteria. So each column will correspond to one of those criteria. And the number of rows will depend on the data that you have access to. With household level data set, align your data to the admin unit. So for each admin unit, for each population group, you have to create as many rows as needed for that. And the data set will be directly the one used for the household level severity. We don't have household level data set per se here. If we can go to the next slide, maybe with an example, this will look even better. So let's have this scenario here. Following a cyclone, according to the head of the district, at District A, 20% of houses had no or minor damage by the cyclone, 50% medium damage, and 30% major damage or house destroyed. Meanwhile, the head of the district also reports that 20% are currently living in overcrowding conditions with no privacy. Let's refer back to the analysis grid. We have under pillar 1, we have 2 sub-indicators, if you remember. The level of safety and security provided by the shelter, and the second indicator, the level of privacy provided by the shelter. On the criteria of the sub-indicator 1, we have safe, unsafe with issues, and unsafe life-threatening, and we have the scoring. So according to the scenario that we have, what could be corresponding to the safe? It's no or minor damage, and we know that we have 20% of the houses or the households are living in such condition. Unsafe with some issues, we have that 50% with medium damage, and then we have 30% with major damage or house destroyed. So we have the 3 answers from our scenario that corresponds each one to the criteria that we have in this sub-indicator already filled in the analysis grid. And this is how we will distill from our data set. Maybe we have only a report, or maybe we have different type of data set or something like that. So we just need to translate from the data set to the analysis grid and make sure that we have the data for the admin units that we are using this analysis for. Indicator 2, sufficient private. No, this go back. Yeah, please. On sufficient privacy, we have, according to the text that we have in the scenario, we have only two situations where we have reported privacy or no privacy, right? We don't have more things. We have either reported privacy or reported no privacy or reported no privacy and overcrowding. And this is what we can distill from the text. As well, they match somehow to our sub indicator criteria. So this is the first step on the formatting or transforming the area level data set into a household level data set. Next. Okay, now, if you remember, we had 50%, 20%, and 30%. As I presented in the previous example, here you see that we have created 10 rows. Each row will represent one household. So just to make sure that we are more or less covering the 50, 20, 30 without any issues of, creating numbers with decimals. So we created 10 rows to present this 20, 50, and 30. So as you see, we have the first two rows representing the 20%. Rows 3 to 7 represent 50%, and rows 8, 9, 10 represents the 30%. And as you see, as you see here in the headers of the column, we have shelter safe, shelter unsafe, and life-threatening shelter. These are coming from the criteria, as we said before. So here, immediately, they correspond to the scoring, because we already know that this is the formula that we have. It's life-threatening. So for this household, the severity score is 5. For the middle ones, the severity score is 1. And for the first two, the severity score is 0. It's because they are under safe shelter. Right? If you remember, if you go back to the previous slide, Camila, please. This is because of the scores. Under safe is 0, under unsafe with issues is 1, and under safe with life-threatening is 5. They are coming from the analysis grid, and they are just mapped into the other one. Next, please. Similarly, if we look at how we put the indicator, the second indicator here with the first one. In this situation that we are looking at, we have chosen to go with the worst case scenario, so we don't miss anyone behind. So we have chosen that the worst case on the second indicator will be represented under the worst case of the first indicator. So mapping the worst case of each indicator together. In the second indicator, we have 20% living with no privacy and overcrowding, and the rest reported privacy, right? So that's why we have privacy, no privacy, and overcrowding. We have 2 rows at the end with 1, because this is the score of this indicator or this criteria, and the rest are 0 under privacy. And we have 2 rows for no privacy and overcrowding, and 8 rows for the rest, for those who are living in privacy. As I said, this is the worst case scenario. If you would like to go with the best case scenario, you can report the no privacy and overcrowding map to the best case, where people are living in shelters that are no damaged. So you transform the ones to the first 2 rows, but this will affect calculations later. So you need to choose your own scenario when you do the calculation. And if you would like to go with the minimum assumptions that you want to or you would like to make there, you need to create these 2 lines for each of the criteria. So you will have 2 multiplied by 3, and then and then 2 distributed over the 5, and 2 distributed over the zeros, or the first 2. So you will have the Cartesian there, and it will create a longer data set for you. So you will have probably maybe around 60 rows for this scenario, and you will populate the data set as such. Is it clear how this is formatted here or not?
Ben, if I may,
Yeah,
I think, sorry, yeah, this is Samir. I think you describe it, it's clear. As I said previously, I think we have to run into issues. we have to try it ourselves. I mean, from how you describe it, it's clear. Just like, I think we need to run it ourselves at some point and just like face issues, and then we see
yeah,
the need.
I agree. I mean, because each scenario, because here we have a simple scenario, you know, with a clear linkages to the analysis grid or to the criteria that we have used here, just to make it as simple for explanation. But you might have different complicated data set or reports that you need to distill the information from. So you need to work it out and, you know, get the hands dirty with that, you know, just to play with it a little bit. Take your time to try it, especially if you don't have household level data sets. This is important for you to grasp that knowledge and you know, the flexibility of this model here. Because as I said, you have three scenarios. Worst case scenario where you believe that all the worst answers are coming from the same household, or maybe you would like to go with the best with the minimum pin or minimum severity that can be produced. So you just flip it upside down. So the worst answers for indicator 2 will be mapped for the best answers of indicator 1, and so on. Or if you would like to go with the minimum assumptions there, you have to do the Cartesian. So for each row, you will have, for instance, for row 10, rows 8, 9, 10, you have to create the set of 2, 8, you know, like for each one, you will create 10 rows. So it will be a little bit longer data set, but it will be with minimum assumptions there. And this will be will allow you actually to benefit from the automatic calculation, and will reduce the assumptions that you will have to make at the end of the calculation when you have to calculate the pin figures. Next, please. Okay, so once we have the data set formatted, you know, and this is the, I would just say this is the most difficult part, especially in area level data sets. I mean, analysis grid prepared, household level data set prepared, then everything will be fine and automatic from now on. According to the calculation tool, for each pillar, the score will be calculated automatically after you prepare the formulas for each household. And then you will have a score for each household under which severity level that this household live according to the decision tree. So if we have, for instance, in for household level here, household A1, I have pillar 1, 3, pillar 2, 4, pillar 3, 5. What is the correspondent in the decision tree? This will be the severity score for this household. Next, please. Here, as you see, for instance, for the first household, the severity score is 4, and then 2, 5, etc. That depends on the decision tree. Next. Once we have all the households from all admin areas, from all population groups, having the severity calculated, we do some aggregation here, and this is done automatically. We will have the percentage of household that lives under phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the total population in that area. So, and this sheet in the calculation tool is formatted per admin area and population group, and the calculation is done as such. So you don't need to change anything in that sheet. It's already formatted for you. You just need to put the admin areas and the population groups that you have in your situation, in your country. Next, please. Here, then the severity score for each admin area, the final severity score for the admin area will be calculated automatically based on the 20% rule. So anyone would like to come in? No, okay. On the 20% rule, so we 20% rule, it says that the moment we reach 20% of the population under which severity phase, that will be the severity score for the that admin area. So if you look at 0-1, like admin unit A, we have 8% under 5, 8% under 4, like 8% under 5, it's less than 20. Under 4, 8% as well. The sum is 16%, still under 20. We continue. Phase 3, 3%, it's 19. Total, it's still under 20. With phase 2 is 40%. We have exceeded the 20% of the population, so we stop at phase 2. And this is the severity score of admin area unit A. For instance, the second row, phase 5 is 6%, phase 4, 19, already exceeded the 20%. So, and the severity score is 4, and similarly for the last one, it goes under 3 severity score. So here, I mean, as you see you have seen in the slide, there's no action required except that you check the data. I mean, check the formulas, check that everything makes sense for you. Because something might go wrong, especially because it's an Excel sheet. We need to make sure that nothing is like not functioning well. Next step is to calculate the pin figure. And as we said, for the pin figure, it's the percentage or the population who are living under phases 3, 4, and 5. Total for admin area A, 19% in these phases, and 19% out of 1,000, which is the total population, is 190. So this is the pin figure for admin area unit A for the IDPs. So we will have the pin figure per admin area and population group. But that depends on, as we said in the beginning, on your country context, what type of admin areas that you have, and what type of population groups that you have in your analysis. Next step. Oh, any questions? Yes, we have reached to the pin figure, and we tried to have the presentation short this time to allow more questions, because we were working with many of the countries and we're, like having multiple of the questions, even if it is a situation where you have some questions that can be solved bilaterally. Let's have it here for the benefit of everyone. So please, any questions, any observations that you have seen here, please come forward. No, it's clear. Wow. I mean, I'm afraid now it's either not clear at all, or maybe it's totally clear. Marie-Pierre, please.
Hi, and sorry, for me, I think it was like not the last slide, but the one before. It wasn't clear like how you calculated the 20%. If you like, because you were like 16, and then sorry, I got lost there.
Yeah. So the point of the 20% rule, it says that the severity phase will be where you have 20. It's the where you exceed 20% of the population living under that severity phase or higher. So we start from severity phase 5 because it's the highest. If we have 20% of the population living under severity 5, then the severity score of that area is 5. If not, we go down to severity score or severity phase 4, and we will see if both in 4 and 5 we have 20% of the population living under those two severity phases. If yes, then the severity score should be 4, because we already arrived at severity 4. If not, we go back to severity 3. How many of the population, what's the percentage of population living under severity 3? Under severity 3, 4, and 5 together, if it exceeds 20%, then the 3 is the severity score of that area.
Okay, yes, thank you. It's clear now. I didn't understand you start by phase 5, so it's fine now.
Yep.
I
Okay.
totally understand. Okay, thank you so much.
Good. Any other question? I don't see any hand. I don't see anyone unmuted. I don't know if in the chat we have anything. No. There's nothing in the chat. Just as a reminder on the French session in an hour from now. If everything is so clear, I just would like to ask you a question here. How many of you have a household level data set? Can you please just maybe raise your hand and come forward naming the country? So I see Samia Syria, Francesca Cameroon, Ali Yemen, Balsha, sorry, I don't recognize the name, the fourth country. The name is not complete there. Balsha?
That should be Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 4 countries with household level data set. I mean, for you, how clear it is to build the analysis grid? I mean, if we can just say on a scale from 1 to 10. Please unmute yourself and say it out loud.
Come again, Hussein? Sorry.
How clear for you to build the analysis grid and format the data set if it is a household level data set? Like, do you have any issues there?
For Syria, yes, as I mentioned, if you use the combined PIN, it's fine so far. So from 1 to 10, if 10 is the best, I would say somewhere between 8 and 10. It's getting better.
Right.
But since we have the issue of separating the PIN, it goes rather to like 3 because we need to figure out how to. So the usage is fine, right? Using it as intended to be from Global Shelter Cluster, it's straightforward. And thank you also for follow-ups. I mean, we had some discussions as well, right? But now it's fine. It's understood and everything. But yeah, we have the issue with the separation of PIN, and there it gets very tricky. And I would rather go to the lower end of the scale, unfortunately, for this special case of Syria.
Okay. Yeah.
Over.
Okay. In that sense, as we said, I mean, we really need to be very careful on designing 2 separate analysis grids for each, of the NFI. We need to deal with the situation as they are 2 different situations, 2 different clusters, and we need to identify the indicators for each one. And we will work on that in our next call, bilateral call, Samir.
Hussein,
Yes.
sorry to jump in, but I saw in the chat, maybe we can also explain a bit what happens when we have hybrid situations. So, for example, an MSNA that covers 80% of the country, but then you have 20% where it's only reports, key informant data. Because I imagine that for a lot of you, that may actually be the case.
Okay. So in that situation, I will just say you will have 2 calculation tools. One that covers the 80% of the country, and this will be using the household level data set with MSNA because it will have different analysis grid from the other one. And the other one will, for the 20% of the country, will use the other type of data. This is applicable on the admin units, on the geographical distribution of the country, wherever you have data or you don't have data at household level. It's applicable on the population groups as well. You might have household level data on the IDPs, but you don't have it on the host community, right? So you separate the 2 population groups into different analysis grids, and you format the data set for each population group accordingly, and so on. So you need to work it out according to the complexity of the situations that you have. Unfortunately, the moment we start to say that you use the same approach for all situations with the same formula, you will lose the accuracy and the like the rigidity, the how to say this, accuracy and the solidity of this, approach or the methodology that you are using, because you are just will be mixing apples and pears together. So, which is not the case that we would like to have. We have the methodological thinking here, but it should be applicable for each specific situation according to the data that is available there. I hope that explains the questions or answers the questions, Camila. I see Francesca, your hands up first.
Yeah, no, you know our situation. So we have been using slightly different approach. I see the correspondences. Renee, she did accurate analysis. I'm getting there. I'm preparing myself in case I need to take over from Renee. But it's getting more clear, and I think I'll understand better by doing. But it's very similar to what we have been doing so far, and I see the matrices matches, and your explanation is in line. So
Exactly.
thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And just one comment there. I know that, the methodology developed in Cameroon was pretty much similar to this one, and follows it, like more parts of it, of the methodology. Just one thing that what we need from you, Francesca, or from Renee, I don't know if Renee is with us today, is to keep the linkages to the 3 pillars, because in the SSC, the 3 pillars are the fixed part. Just to keep that thinking and that terminology on the 3 pillars, and how we aggregate them to get, like the severity and the pin figures. The rest are adjustable, and you can just do that anyhow in the country. The point that we are asking this for is to make sure that we have good communication on the implementation of the SSC, that we are all on the same page and using this same methodology, even if it's customizable, adjustable at the country level. And to ensure that the SSC is implemented, we need to keep this thinking of the 3 pillars: the shelter, the living conditions, and the settlement approach, and how we aggregate them together.
Okay, that is well noted. Renee is not with us today because she's on leave. Once she will get back, we will have a briefing, and in case any doubt, we'll book a call with you or Camilla.
Sure.
But that is well noted. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Alfonso?
Hello, no, sorry, it was an old hand raise because I already raised my comment on the chat, and Camila just answered to it. But thank you so much. All clear.
Sorry, how to pronounce your name? Sorry, the first name.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's hard. It's Usue.
Usu. Okay, sorry. I thought the Alfonso is the first name, but sorry for that mistake. Okay, so the question is in the chat.
Yeah, I can maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Please.
on what about a situation where you have household level data, but it's not representative? So in this case, if you have, as long as you're transparent when you're doing your analysis, presenting the results and everything, as long as you're transparent about the level of representativeness, then it's fine. You can use the tool, you can use the approach as is. You just need to say when you present your results that it was based on indicative data.
Moreover, if you can support your household level data set with any evidence that you can collect from any other type of data sources, please do it, and you make sure that you do it, because in the end, our work in general all depends on some assumptions, right? Because we don't have, the full access that we would like to have. We don't have maybe the most accurate data sets that we would like to have to do the analysis. So we are working within some assumptions. The most important thing is to keep those assumptions clear and transparent, and make sure that you are all, the cluster team, partners, any audience that will receive the analysis that you produce, they are all aware of those assumptions, and that those assumptions are the best case scenarios that you can have as the accuracy of the data sets. Ali, Yemen?
Yes, thank you, Hassan. So, in cases that we didn't have a presence in certain locations, so what do you recommend that we leave these locations as a gap, or we try to maybe get some idea from the nearest location, so we can maybe take the average needs or the average severity score from the close locations? Over to you.
Well, if I have no information at all on one location, like not accessible, all data that are available on that location may be 10 years old, we don't have anything from that. And at least here it comes to the cluster team and partners and to some expert judgment to say that we know about that location, this information. Maybe they are some news report. Maybe they are some, I don't know, like old reports that you can project from. In the end, if you have to provide some analysis on those, you just need to pick up the most recent and accurate expert analysis that you can get there based on some information that are available. If you don't have any information, I don't know how much this is the scenario. I'm going to the worst case scenario that you don't have anything. So expert judgment would be here the best thing to do. Like who are the actors that have access there, or maybe recently had access or had a humanitarian visit or a convoy going through that area, or etc. So this is the things that you can use in such scenario. There's no methodology to speak about something that is unknown completely. You cannot use a scientific methodology for such situation. When you use a scientific methodology, I think it will be more to when you have at least some reliable data that you can build something scientific on top of it. And this is what we are trying to do here. But if there's no information at all, God knows what's happening there. I mean, really, I don't know if colleagues, I mean, if anyone has an answer on such situation or an experience with a methodology or an approach that you have used in similar situation where you didn't have access at all, you didn't have information about that region, what have you done? Please, if anyone can answer this, would be great.
Hassan, for Yemen, we did the interpretation of the nearest 3 districts. So we took the average, the average severity and the average severity. But I thought if you maybe have a better idea or a better experience on that.
So you have some remote assessments.
So it's like we had an assessment in this location, but the nearest the district that is near to this location, we didn't have access to it. So maybe not necessarily an access, but maybe the partner who didn't have access, but maybe other partners they have access. But the household level assessment didn't reach certain locations.
Well, in that situation, as we said, you use the household level data wherever you have household level data. This is clear. And if you didn't manage to run the assessment in some locations, but you have some partners have access there, you can use information from those partners, because the level of assessments that we have, as we know, we have the household level assessment, and we go up to key informant assessment where we have some area level data by the population groups themselves. They can provide some information, and the higher levels that we have there, if we don't have key informant, no access to some people who can provide accurate answers, it is the direct observation by the humanitarian partners, your partners in that location. What do they see there? I mean, and so you design some, simple questionnaire for them to provide that information at the area level, and you distill you transform it into household, as we said on the percentages in the presentation. This would be the best options that you can do in such scenario. If you would say that go with an assumption that, okay, I have two adjacent areas, like one village here, next village, I have access to this village, but to the next one I didn't have access. But we know for sure that they share similarities on the population, demographic, on the situation of the shelters, on situation of access to services. You know that, so you can maybe generalize your assessment to the other area if you would like. You can use the same approach for both from one data set. If you have that level of trust or confidence in the data sets and your judgment on the similarities between the two areas, that in the end up to you, but you really need to make sure that you clarify that assumption and make it transparent and support it with evidence. So if you are saying that these two villages, for instance, share a lot of similarities and situations there is like 100% similar, you need to provide based on what you are making this statement or this assumption. Any other question?
Maybe just to underline the key message from today, if anything else, is really that the difficult part is all of this building of your data set. That's I shouldn't say difficult. Let's say the part that will require the most of work and thinking and all that is what comes before. So the analysis plan, the grid, the decision tree, and then building your data set. That's really where you have to put a lot of time and effort. Once you've done this, once you've established how many different data sets you'll be using, how many, if it's household area and all that, once that is done, everything else will be generated automatically. So really focus, that would be the advice, is to really focus on that part from now on.
Yeah, I fully agree on this. And this formatting of the data set, building of the analysis grid, the decision tree, and so on, that totally dependent. It's totally dependent on your understanding of the context and your understanding of the situation in the country where you work. There's no specific approach that can tell you from headquarter or from another country or anyone. No one can tell you how to understand your situation. You are in the best place to understand the situation and provide that explanation in terms of or in the shape of the data set or the analysis grid or the assessment that you design, that you feel that it will answer all the questions that you need to answer to assess the shelter needs. Any other questions? Colleagues from our team in I say Pablo, Neil, Mamin, Caroline, Frederick. If you have any comments, anything that you would like to share with the colleagues as well, please let us know or come forward.
Nothing from my side. Thank you.
I have a very quick question. Maybe it was a bit basic, but if we can come back to the slide, I think it was just before the last one. You had in one row, you have one column with population group and one column with admin unit. And I was wondering if we have if the tool is designed in the way that per admin unit we have also the different percentages or number of individuals in each of the population groups, or if we are using the population group in general, and then it's more the division, the number of population group in general. I was just wondering myself how was this addressed in this tool to understand if the approach is to have them by admin unit or in general. Just that was my question floating in my mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Maman. Actually, admin unit population group, this is usually decided at the inter-cluster level, at the interagency level, as the kind of the minimum analysis unit. So every cluster will have to provide analysis per area per admin unit per population group. So I have admin unit A. Here in this example, for instance, I should have admin unit A, IDP, admin unit A, host community, admin unit A, returnee, if I have 3 population group, and then 3 rows for admin unit B and 3 rows for admin unit C. So I will have the Cartesian between the admin units and the population groups. And the total population, as you see in the third column, will be provided as well by OCHA per admin unit per population group. So the first 3 lines usually are provided by OCHA in every country as the baseline for the analysis. From phase 1 onward, all those columns, we are doing the analysis according to our data sets, because our data sets should be detailed as well according to the admin units and population group. And in our design, in the calculation tool, they are. So you just need to populate the admin units and population groups in the tool, and you will get all the calculation done for you.
Okay, but sorry, then a follow-up question. Then when we have the 41%, in this case is 41% of
IDPs.
IDPs in admin unit
A.
A. That's it.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Well understood.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. So we still have 6 minutes for this session. I don't know if there's anything else. If not, we can close the session. But I would love to hear from you on your experience, anything that you can share as maybe challenges that you have faced on, and the way you try to resolve those or address those challenges while you were trying to implement the SSC so far. If there's anything can be shared, please. Yes, David?
Mine is just a quick one. The general setup seems to be aligned to a reconciliation with the IPC sort of severity assessment, and seems to be aligned to the GF 2.0. But again, based on the experiences of shelter, there's something that is lost in translation. For example, if we do not have an ability to integrate what would call, for example, the post-disaster assessment for shelter, or otherwise there was a previous tool on the quality assessment for shelter, specific to shelter. This is one of the small little bit of assessment that misses out and makes the pin identification for shelter, that makes the targeting for shelter becomes a little bit of a political process rather than a scientific process. Yet shelter should be more of that. I don't know whether we are going to have, say, another 2.0 of this specific tool, which is very much welcome. It gives us a little bit of leverage in terms of negotiating. But I don't know if we are going to have a 2.0 to integrate the previous quality assessment tool that had been provided by the shelter cluster, which I think was a little bit more specific to the household, to the shelter that they are in. If they don't have a shelter, then how would you reconcile what they get vis-a-vis what the host communities have, so that there is no contestation in terms of you've given them more than we have been given. So this was my little bit of worry that it comes through as if it requires a political negotiated process rather than being purely scientific to what a shelter should be per se. Over to you, and thanks very much for taking us through this.
Good. Thanks, David. Yeah, I'll just confirm your observation on that. This framework goes in line with the IPC. Yes, we learned from IPC while we were designing this framework. It goes in line 100% with GF 2.0. We are working on the design of the 2 methodologies at the same time, so we made sure that every single bit is more or less going in line. So the methodology that we have here, the shelter severity classification, fits totally in the GF 2.0 process. You need as inputs to provide to GF2, they are all generated out of this methodology or framework. You don't need to run any other analysis to feed into the GF or to meet your commitment to the GF. So this is all guaranteed there. On other type of assessments, like that's why in the beginning of the session when I said MSNA data and then I just said no household level data. That was on purpose because we know that for shelter cluster we have different type of assessments. We might have technical assessments, technical level assessment, very deep technical engineering assessment that we can have in a country. But we used to use this terminology that is most common to use the MSNA data and formulated in the analysis grid. If you have a technical assessment, if you have a quality assessment and so on, you can use them in this analysis and transform them to the analysis grid. The point is how much are available, how much the coverage that you have, and how much representative they are. If you have it for the half of the country and you're sure that those assessments are better quality than the MSNA, use them. And then for the rest of the country, you can use the MSNA data or any other type of data set. So what we would like to advocate for here is to use the most accurate, most representative data set that you have in the country that you feel as a cluster coordinator or the cluster team to be used. Not to use the MSNA data because OCHA is advocating for MSNA. What we need to do here is just to let me put it this way, to fill our position as shelter cluster, because we are the experts in the shelter situation and we are the experts in knowing what type of data or what data sets represent the shelter situation. Not OCHA team, not REACH team, not any other cluster team knows that better than us. We are the shelter cluster and we are responsible for this analysis. So we use the best data sets that are available for us. If you can advocate for shelter-specific assessment with some technical level, engineering level, etc., in the country you are working in, that will be most welcome, and this will allow you to really implement the SSC in the best case, in the most applicable way that you can produce an analysis from the SSC. So this is what we really the ideal situations that we would like to have, but it's not always available. Then when it comes to the last point on the targeting, to provide what to whom, this is coming in the next level on the programming. And we said from the very beginning that the SSC is not a household level targeting. So you cannot create beneficiary list from the SSC. You will need to use the outputs of the SSC with some other tools that we might be providing later on to make sure that we are able to identify the needs of each specific household and what type of program or response that will feed into those needs and address those needs. This is what I would just say as a response to all of the observations that you have got, David. We are on time now. I don't know. I don't see any other hand. If anyone has any question, please make sure that you reach out to us with any challenge that you might face as early as possible. Don't try to do things by yourself and maybe just get stuck at some point very close to your deadline. We are available and we are trying to prioritize any support request coming from the country, especially related to the SSC. From now till the end of the HPC process, please reach out to us. We will be providing the needed support as much as we can. And so far, we're able to cover all the support requests that we have received. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you so much. With that, I think we can close the session. Camila will meet you in 30 minutes to provide the same session, but in French. So if you would like to hear it in French, please join Camila in that session at 3:30. Thank you so much and have a good afternoon or good day, good morning, according to where you are connecting from. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, Camila. Bye-bye. Bye, colleagues.